Age does not equal deterioration. Now, I've championed this truth for decades. I've shown how our ignorance about time passing on a calendar is causing us to deteriorate. But it's gotten worse. During the recent pandemic, studies show how we are actually using this same ignorance to shame our senior citizens. Decriminalizing age. Today on the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast.
Welcome to the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast
with Garrett Williamson.
Health, wellness, exercise, nutrition, and a whole lot more. Got questions? Call us and leave a message at 251-278-EDGE or message us at Personal Edge Fitness on Facebook and Instagram, at Team PE on Twitter, or personaledgefitness.com.
Good day and welcome to the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast. I am your host, Garrett Williamson, president of Personal Edge Fitness. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Appreciate you supporting the podcast and hearing what I have to say. If you have any questions about this particular topic or any others on health, fitness, and wellness, or if you have any questions especially about dispelling the myths of health, fitness, and wellness, please reach out to us. Contact me via email at Garrett, Garrett, at personaledgefitness.com. You're also welcome to contact us via our website. That's personaledgefitness.com. That is also our Facebook page, Personal Edge Fitness. You're more than welcome to give us a call. We'd love to speak to you, either one of our directors or one of our exercise specialists. You can contact us at our Mobile location at 251-341-0927, or, of course, in our Eastern Shore, the Daphne location, which is 251-651-0927. And as always, if you're a fan of the show, please like and share it. Tell your friends about it. Today's a special podcast. I'm actually videoing this, and if you're seeing this on Facebook, you're seeing that I'm sitting with a very different background than I usually have. This background is it's a bit snowy. I'm sitting in front of a great window with a fantastic snowy scenery behind me. It's been snowing off and on. I'm in Thane, Wyoming, and this is a special vacation production of the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast, because that's what I'm at. I'm out here right now with my wife and my 5 dogs, out here mostly to walk around in the snow and enjoy seeing our dogs in the snow. We're going to do a little bit of skiing, and since I have 5 dogs out here, and I don't currently own a private plane, so yes, we did load them up in a Ford Expedition. It's been slightly modified inside, and drove cross country to get them here. We took about 5 or 6 days to get out here, driving around the weather, took in some dog parts along the way. So looking forward to producing a podcast out in this scene, and I thank you again for tuning in. If you're watching on the video, you'll see I have a friend next to me. This is my 11-year-old bloodhound named Lucy. Now, Lucy, I don't think that Lucy's going to have much to add to the podcast as far as speaking to us today. She may not. There's a significance for having Lucy here, besides with the fact that I'm on vacation, and I usually do have a dog in the room, whether you see it on the video or not. Lucy plays a part in this also, since Lucy is now 11 years old and doing fantastic. There's no assumption we should have that she shouldn't be doing fantastic. She's been running the snow, rolling in it, racing downhill after us, sledding, and pretty well leading the way on our path. We actually have a Garmin collar that we keep on her in order to make sure that we keep track of her, because she gets so far away from us. And that's at 11 years old, and typically big dogs aren't supposed to live that long, what have you. Well, age doesn't seem to be slowing her down, just like it doesn't with us. Now, today I'm talking about age. That's one of my favorite topics, but there's a special reason why I'm talking about it today. Besides the fact that I've come across some research that I wanted to share with you that's actually kind of scary, but I can show you how we can turn that around. But there's another significance why I'm talking about age today. Today happens to be my 53rd birthday. Yes, I am. I'm pretty excited about it myself. Absolutely. So I mean that seriously. I mean that literally. I don't mean that as if I'm trying to cover up the fact that I've turned another year older and I'm acting like I'm happy about it or whatever. No, I'm genuinely happy about it. I've enjoyed every birthday I have ever had, and of course, being in this setting, it's even easier to enjoy my birthday. Sitting here with my whole family with me. And we're going to be doing some snowy activities, and I'm looking forward to all that. But I seriously am excited about another year of experience. I'm seriously excited about turning 53. Why? Because as I've said to you many, 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 many times before, age does not cause us to deteriorate. Age does not cause us to deteriorate. Now, I've pointed this out several times, and I've pointed this out in podcast series that I do on live aging If you haven't heard that, I highly recommend you check it out. It's podcast number 12 through 16, and it is the series on the lie of aging. It actually goes through chapter and verse describing to you why I call it a lie, why I call age a lie, or the idea that as time passes on the calendar, we deteriorate, why I call that a lie. And that's podcast 12 through 16. And in that podcast, though, as far as what I'm talking about today, I would love for you to pay particular attention to number 16, because I've said it before, I'll say it again, there are four components of ability, and that's what we're really talking about. Gosh, Garrett, I was able to do this when I was whatever magic age, 18, 25, 36, whatever magic age to you that you did incredibly amazing physical things. But now that I'm whatever age you are now, if you're saying I can't do those things, well, can and can't, that's ability. That's not gray hairs, that's not wrinkles, that's not just time, that's ability. I could then, I can't now, and the reason I believe, incorrectly of course, the reason I believe that I cannot do these things happens to be time passed on a calendar. Well, there are four components of aging, and the components of aging are activity or fitness. Number 2 is nutrition. Number 3 is lifestyle. And number 4, which is what podcast 16 is about, is mindset. And I always say that you can work hard on the first couple all you want. You can sit there and, I work out hard. I fight aging, a foe that really isn't there. You can do all those wonderful things. But if you get number 4 wrong, if you get mindset wrong, believe me, you've already lost the battle. And we're seeing with that ignorance, we're actually using that ignorance to shame and hurt other people. I'm going to get to that in a minute. I was out yesterday with my family out here in this wonderful scenery, and we were at a place called Prater Canyon. It's in Sky Valley Ranch, Utah, right around Thane, and we were in this fantastic trail, and it is fantastic. We're in snowshoes. My dogs are having no problem staying way ahead of us, finding all kinds of treasures that were buried by predators in the snow, and rolling the snow and even eating the snow. They absolutely love it. But they're having no trouble staying in front of my wife and I, who are wearing snowshoes and climbing this hill. It's a long trek. If we weren't in snowshoes or wasn't a snowy situation, it probably wouldn't be quite as challenging. But it is an incredible hike, because it's rather challenging, especially at the beginning. And as we're going up there, one of the things that my wife and I like to do is actually create the snowball effect. Now, you've heard that used as an adjective, something snowballs, whatever. And you can actually do that. You can take a little snowball and wad it up in your hand and toss it down the hill. And as it goes down the hill, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. That plays into what I'm talking about today. You'll use that a lot. You'll use that analogy a lot when you talk about one guy punched another guy in a bar scene, and then the whole thing just snowballed, which means everybody got involved. It got worse or whatever. Well, that's what I'm seeing happening with the ignorance of the thought process that as time passes on a calendar, we deteriorate. And the reason I say it's a snowball effect, there's some recent studies during the pandemic where, because of how we think about aging, because of how we think somebody that is amassed a lot of time on their calendar evidently has changed, and therefore they are less. They're not as strong. They're not as mobile. They can't think as fast. They are more of a drain. They are less. We think that about ourselves. If you ask anybody if they think that life expectancy is going to increase as years go by, almost everybody says, yeah, oh, absolutely. But if you ask somebody if 4 years from now you'll be less than you are now, most people, yeah, I will. That doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. But that same thought process that we use on ourselves, again, if you sit there and believe that, you believe that's going to happen, you're going to make it happen. Period. You're gonna think that you've won the argument with me, because look, I can make myself deteriorate. I'm sure you can. Generations before you have. First and foremost, because they believe they are going to fail. They believe they are going to deteriorate. That's our problem. What we're finding in these studies, I'm going to read some of these. This was published in the Wall Street Journal in their health and wellness page, and it's something I go to. I like going there for a lot of the information that I use for my podcast, because a lot of the studies I've seen before, but usually when they hit New York Times, hit the Wall Street Journal, they're getting out to the general public. I'm glad of that. But it's funny. Several of the studies that I read in medicine science and sport medicine and what have you, you usually don't see these studies come out for years, but they're getting them out faster now, and I'm really glad to see that. And I'm gonna read a little bit from this particular study because I thought it was interesting. It's during the pandemic. They did collected data from all 50 states that implicit bias, in other words, a subconscious negative attitude against older people, was most prevalent in different areas of the country, the Southeast and what have you. The findings were based on responses of 803,000 people ages 15 to 94 who completed a test involving photos of young and old people and words associated with those images. And what we're finding is as they saw people that were more senior, whatever, the words were very negative, very negative. And this was during the pandemic that they were doing this. And the reason that's significant is the fact that they were starting to draw some conclusions on why they were getting these negative thoughts. And some of the questions in there dealt with the handling of the pandemic. And the researchers believe that a lot of the anger was associated with the fact that medical care and treatment and what have you was being spent more on the senior population. And bottom line, I can go through this whole article, but drawing a quick conclusion to it, you'll see as you read the article, you'll see that the main reason for that was they felt that there was less value. They had nothing against saving people. They had nothing against treatment of people and taking care of citizens. It's just the fact that they thought the value wasn't there. Why? Why? Because they're older. That's absurd. That's absolutely absurd. You may think of that as, oh, that's normal, Garrett. Well, let me show you a little bit of a comparison. Let's take a look at a new quarterback being drafted, in the top 10 in the NFL? Let's look at that quarterback's value compared to how much would a team pay for Drew Brees to say, you know what? I don't want to retire. In fact, I'm going to go play for this other team. How much would they value that? Now, you may not be a Saints fan, but give the devil his due. A lot of teams would be scratching their heads trying to fit his new contract that they've dreamed up, which may actually set a record, how to fit that under the salary cap, because I guarantee you they want that experience. They want that age. Well, Garrett, that's different. Okay, how is it different? And think about how it's different. He's got experience. He spent time. Wow. Most anybody in a working situation, a physician, a mechanic, a plumber, you typically don't want to go with a new guy. You want to go with a guy that's got experience. And here's a guy that's got physical capabilities that are incredible, and he is older. He's older than the hotshot coming out of college. And we assess great value to that individual because of that. But yet, when it comes to pretty much anybody else, when it comes to our own family members, when it comes to people that we have sought counsel for years, we find less value in them. And these studies are showing this. I mentioned the snowball effect earlier, and this is why I mentioned that. And actually talk about this. I talk about this in not only the Lie of Age, but I also talk about this in the Lie of Food. Now, the Lie of Food was a podcast series that I did after the Lie of Aging. It's a lie. I always have to look at my notes on that. The Lie of Food was podcast 24 through 27. And on the 27th podcast, I actually talk about this thought process we have about calling good food and bad food, and how if you snowball that, if you watch how that snowballs, you don't have to manufacture it. It happens automatically. When we call a food bad, we call a food junk. I'm eating junk food. Pardon me for saying this, but I ate this good stuff. I don't eat that crap over there. When we do that, we're shaming ourselves. And think about it when you're talking about somebody else. Oh, he's not doing very good. He eats all that junk. He eats all that crap. He eats all that. That's shaming somebody. Do that on a regular basis. You do that with somebody that's possibly overweight, or if you're just randomly speaking about somebody and their physical abilities. Well, he would be okay if he wouldn't eat all that junk. Well, look how calling good food and bad food, which is a lie. And by the way, if you believe that, you're lying to yourself. If somebody's telling you that, they're lying to you. If somebody is out saying over and over again, there is good food and bad food, they are a liar. But if you keep using those words over and over again, talk about your own foods, talk about foods that you eat, talk about foods that other people eat, you're going to have that snowball. It's going to snowball, and you're going to be shaming people with that language. No different than what I'm talking about here. You believe that you deteriorate because time passes on the calendar. You believe that you're going to be less. Then you're going to believe that everybody else around you that has time passed on the calendar is less. Or let's snowball it this way. I believe I'm going to be less, therefore I make myself less. I make myself weaker. I can't do that because I'm this age. I can't do that anymore. Yeah, I used to, but I stopped doing that because I've turned this age. Well, you're deteriorating yourself. You're deteriorating yourself. You're becoming this weak individual, and then you're going to have people think, well, yeah, not as valuable, much more weak. So inwardly or outwardly, it's the same thing. Whether you've created it yourself or you just look at somebody, well, that person's older, therefore I think less of them. I've got 90-year-olds that I work with that I guarantee you are far better than some of the people listening to this podcast. As far as physical, as far as mental, I mean, they are really on top of their game. And their time passing on a calendar has been a credit to them. Why? Because it's experience. They spent more time. They've Drew Brees this thing. Nothing against Peyton Manning. Nothing against any older players for that matter. I always like to go back, by the way, when we're mentioning football players. People are talking about it recently, these two particular quarterbacks, especially since Tom Brady just recently won he and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers just won the Super Bowl. And I think that's fantastic. It's incredible. And we've been talking a lot about, wow, isn't that amazing? He's that old. Yeah, it is amazing. It is amazing. It's fantastic. It should be the norm. In fact, it is as amazing as it was when Fred Blitnikoff did it back in the 70s, when George Blanda did it back then. I think Cliff Branch was 30-something years old before he stopped playing. Ken Stabler was still playing for the New Orleans Saints because Bum Phillips asked him to. I mean, Martina Navratilova. I can keep going with this. We've known this for years, and the fact that we constantly believe that these people have less value is insulting. Now, and I'm sorry to bounce on and off this article and skipping around a little bit on my subject matter because when I get wound up about age, well, it's kind of hard to stop me because it's something I'm very passionate about. But there is some good news that came out of this study, and there's some good news that came out of some of the studies they were doing on our thought process about people in the pandemic. One of those is by Becca Levy. Now, Becca Levy, this is interesting. I like this combination. And actually, I believe when the government were starting to put together their panel which should have been a panel of individuals handling the pandemic, it shouldn't have been just epidemiologists. It should have had business people involved in it. It should have had psychologists involved with it, first and foremost, even attorneys, and to put together a plan for how we were going to deal with all aspects of the pandemic, which will affect us as far as our health is concerned. Now, I don't want to get into a political discussion, but when you go from a certain socioeconomic level down and you drop down because your business is closed or what have you, that does affect your health. But something we're seeing a lot of, and we talk about this a lot with kids, and keeping the kids stimulated during the pandemic, making sure that they're having some kind of social interaction. Oh my gosh, their development's going to be stifled. Their creativity is going to be stifled because they don't have this interaction because they're being closed off. That is so true. Guess what? Same exact thing for every single age. Every single age. Mental deterioration has increased greatly during the pandemic. Dementia has increased. Alzheimer's has increased. Why? Because the same social interaction, same creativity, same stimulation that we need for a child, that we need for an adult, we need for seniors. Believe it or not, since Lucy's sitting right next to me, you need it for dogs. You've got to have that stimulation. You've got to have that creativity. You can't stifle all that for any age. Back to the study, Becky Levy is an epidemiologist and social psychologist. That's why I like so much about her being involved with this particular study, because not only does she understand the disease itself, the virus itself, by being an epidemiologist, she's going to study and be concerned about the psychology of the brain, which is being greatly affected by this. But something that she found, I told you at the beginning of my diatribe here, that there was some good news and some fantastic news that came out of this study. This drives my point home. It's something I talked about in podcast number 16 in the live aging when I talked about the mental side of it. And she said, I'm actually going to read this here. My headphones here, it's hard for me to get my glasses up. She says that attitudes can change, which in turn can improve the health of older persons. This is what I wanted to get to. Older persons who, with positive age stereotypes, were 44% more likely to fully recover from severe disability and had a lower risk of developing dementia than those with negative age stereotypes, according to her previous research. Listen to that. This isn't just Garrett saying this. Well, this is driving my point home. It's the same thing I talked about in the live aging number 16 when I spoke about the research and the studies they were doing on how people thought of themselves and how it affected their health. Again, 44% more likely if they have a positive age stereotype, they are 44% more likely to fully recover from severe disability. And they had a lower risk of developing dementia than those with negative age stereotypes. I mean, that's black and white. That's plain as day. I said in that Harvard study that they did on people's thoughts of themselves and how they felt about how they looked and how they felt about their age. I talked about hair color. A lady that gets either a haircut or hair color, and she just thinks she looks younger. Doesn't even have to. It could be somebody that actually, wow, they changed their hair color and they actually look older to me. If that individual thinks they look younger, they had lower blood pressure. I mean, just thought they did. If somebody wears a uniform to go to work and they maintain that uniform, they actually have longer life expectancies. It has nothing to do with the job. It has to do with the fact that they believe they look young. They look just like all the other younger people that are out there. They look the same way. That's all in the mind. That's how you can reverse this ridiculous lie that as time passes on the calendar, we deteriorate. And this is why I say, first thing, the brain is the most powerful organ in your body. It can make you do incredible things. You've heard of stories like that. It can make you do incredible things, but it can also kill you. And if you allow yourself to believe that as time passes on the calendar, we deteriorate, or that if somebody else's time has passed on their calendar, therefore they are less valuable, you're going to cause harm to yourself. You're going to cause harm to other individuals. We're going to cause harm to an entire society. And we've done that. We've done that over and over and over again. Let me climb off my horse about age, and let's stay on this subject, but let me give you some ways to correct this. How do we change it? Do you ever want to ignore a disability? For instance, I just turned 53 today. Yes, I'm incredibly excited about it, obviously. I'm very excited about it myself. But I just turned 53. I just recovered from an injury. Why? Because I'm a certain age? No, because I had done something repetitively. I actually taught a class or did a class I recorded a video for. I love that workout so much. I did the workout myself. I did the workout during the class. I did the example of the workout with several clients in one day, and then about 5 or 6 the next day, and I did some simple part of the exercise the next day and pulled my hip flexor really bad. And I'd pulled it a few weeks before. I hadn't let it heal. This has nothing to do with time passed on the calendar. I did the same thing with my quadricep when I was 17 years old, and I was being looked at by colleges as a pole vaulter. I kept repeatedly injuring that. But what I was getting to is that you don't want to ignore a disability. And if somebody's got, a limitation that they've created at whatever age, yeah, of course we want to pay attention to that. You don't want to look past that. But you don't want to change your mindset about it. You do not want to attach age to it. That person has an injury. Well, Garrett, the reason you got that injury is because, time passed on the calendar. You're 53 now. That's why you had that. No. I injured myself just like I injured myself other ways. Now, I found out right now I'm rehabbing it. My left quadriceps happens to be about 60 to 70% of my right quadricep, and I'm training them. I'm rehabbing it. I'll be back to full speed in no time. So we don't want to ignore those things when we're talking about age and what we think is causing deterioration, which it's not passing on the calendar. But taking those into account, dealing with them like we always deal with them, and then change your mindset. Number 1. Celebrate birthdays. I can find a ton of reasons to celebrate birthdays. If nothing else, no matter how you believe or where your faith is, it's another day on this earth. It's another day with your family. It's another day with your spouse. It's another day with your significant other. It's another day with my dog. That's more than worth it to me. Of course, my spouse comes first because she's definitely in the room, and I'm sure she's hearing this. That is true. But I mean, if nothing else, hey, it's another day. It's another year on this earth. That's a good thing. And depending on your faith, some faiths believe, and I know mine does, that this part is temporary. So I want to enjoy it. You've got other things that you can go out and experience. Enjoy it because, hey, it's a day about you. I mean, you're going to get some cake today. There's going to be possibly a celebration. Somebody's going to send you well wishes, if nothing else, through social media. But celebrate birthdays. Don't fear them. Here's the flip side of that. Dreading it, worrying about it, And why are you worried about it? Because I don't want to be that age, because I don't want to be that old, because I'm going to be less. Guess what? You constantly tell the team that they're going to lose, they're going to lose. So celebrate your birthdays. Number 2, when it comes to time passing on a calendar, don't think of deterioration. Think of experience. Drew Brees, Peyton Manning, Martina Navratilova, the Williams sisters. Think of experience. Experience. We value that. We don't value deterioration, and deterioration does not automatically happen because time passes on the calendar. Again, see podcast numbers, I always forget that, 12 through 16, The Lie of Aging. Number 3, don't stop. Whatever you do, don't stop. Don't stop, no matter what. And what I mean by that is, oh gosh, I would do that, but I'm this old, so I don't do that anymore. That's ridiculous. Do not stop. Play. Move. Take on the task. And if it's something that, gosh, I used to go out and chop wood, but I haven't chopped wood in years. But Garrett's saying, go out and give it a shot. Hang on. Build up to those tasks. Do the same thing that you did before, which is when you couldn't do something, you learned it, you built up the strength, you developed the strength to do it, and you went out and did the task. Do the same way at whatever age. But don't give up. And that's the last one. If you don't want to believe me, if you don't want to believe the research, you don't want to believe Becca Levy, maybe you'll believe Winston Churchill. At the end of the day, never give up. Listen, thank you so much for tuning into the podcast. I appreciate you spending my birthday with me. And hopefully we're going to do maybe 1 or 2 more while I'm out here in Wyoming enjoying my vacation. I hope you're having a wonderful time, and I hope you're enjoying the podcast. If you are, please like and share it. If you have any questions about it, please contact me at Garrett, Garrett, at personaledgefitness.com. You're welcome to contact us through our website, which is personaledgefitness.com, and our Facebook page, of course, is Personal Edge Fitness. You can reach us at the Mobile location at 251-341-0927 or in the Eastern Shore at 651-0927. Age does not mean deterioration. It means experience. And that experience can help you live your level of wellness.
Thanks for listening to the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast with Garrett Williamson. Subscribe now and be a part of the show by calling 251-278-EDGE or message us on Facebook and Instagram at Personal Edge Fitness or at Team PE on Twitter, and visit us at personaledgefitness.com.